Welcome to our Tag Marshal Expert session. My name is Boris Sieber, the Tag Marshal CEO, one of the co-founders, early employees and general chief janitor. I am delighted to have a guest with us from Wild Rock Golf Club up in beautiful Wisconsin, Pat Stein. Welcome, Pat. How are you this morning?
Things are great. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And also one of our team who is currently, I always have to guess with you, David. Are you in Augusta or in Charleston? You're in Augusta, are you? Are you on mute? Muted in Augusta. David is our VP of Business Development. And let's see if you can find your unmute button, then we can hear from you. Our session today is how technology brings innovation to Wild Rock Golf Club, improving the player experience and revenue. And we're delighted that you can join us. We're hoping to learn some of the tricks of the trade from Pat and see how he has tuned into technology to ensure success at what is an amazing resort. And to get us going, Pat, why don't you do us a favor and introduce both Wild Rock Golf Club and also how you got to be there and what you're all about.
Sure. Yeah, Wild Rock Golf Club is located at the Wilderness Resort in Wisconsin, Dells, Wisconsin. We're a big tourist destination for the Midwest. Kind of the area's claim to fame is water parks and water park resorts, but we're kind of changing that reputation now with golf and kind of joining the golf craze inWisconsin. We're kind of centrally located in between Erin Hills, Sand Valley, and the Kohler courses. So exciting time to be involved in golf in Wisconsin with all the great things going on here. I've been with Wild Rock Golf Club for 22 years, came on board in 2001, and kind of watched the progression from a golf course that we had here before called Wilderness Woods that went away during a big resort expansion into what we have today. Wild Rock is in one of the top golf courses in the state of Wisconsin. So it's been fun to watch that evolution and be part of the development and growth of Wild Rock and all the things that's come with it.
So there's a Bermuda Triangle of golf, and right in the middle is where you guys are at, and people get lost
100%
and keep playing. We as Tag Marshal, we have a special relationship with Wisconsin because that our very first partners are from there, and fun enough, Erin Hills. And I know that you also have a bit of a special relationship with Erin Hills in terms of the design of your revamped facility. Tell us a little bit about
that. We do. We have a really great connection. The architects that did Herdson and Fry did both Erin Hills and Wild Rock, and in fact, they were finishing the construction of Wild Rock finishing up Erin Hills as the construction of Wild Rock started. So we've got a lot of kind of similar characteristics between the same golf courses, and it was kind of exciting to kind of hear the behind the scenes stuff going on in Erin Hills and how that golf course and facility came together, and they said kicking off Wild Rock right on the tails of that was neat too, to keep Dana and Dr. Herdson and that crew going. It was really a neat experience.
Yeah, very nice. So they honed their skills for a US Open course and then brought all the best stuff to you guys, right?
Exactly.
Fantastic. David, have we found you now? Are you?
I am. Fantastic. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Great.
Good. I apologize.
So you still haven't unveiled where you're at. Is it Augusta?
It is Augusta, Bodo. As of a late night flight last night, I am back in Augusta, Georgia, and thank you. It's always a moving target with me. I get it.
I know, but another minor golf destination.
That's right. Well, we have a little event in April that everybody's heard of.
No, indeed. All right, Pat. Thank you so much for the introduction. Maybe you mentioned 3 amazing golf courses up in Wisconsin, and we're lucky enough to work with all 3 of them. The obviously your setup is quite different, and so we love to dig into how you do things over at Wild Rock. But if you'd allow me, just David, why don't you do a quick introduction into the world of Tag Marshal for those who are listening and who have not heard of
Yeah, I think in addition to Pat's quality facility at Wild Rock, I mean, obviously we've got 500 plus golf courses that are now taking part and partnering with us. And the cool thing about this is that the data and the history that we have over the years, since you guys came on board, 2014-15 window, of over 30 million rounds tracked and over a trillion, billion, data points. And as you can see, a really solid portfolio of private, daily fee, and organizational relationships. And I think the really interesting part of this is as I've evolved with Tag Marshal and come on board, is just that we like to say that we're working with clubs that have a $30 to $50 green fee all the way up to a $650 green fee, depending upon the facility, depending upon the type of offering and the clientele that they represent. But so we're really appealing to the daily fee, the private, semi-private, the public facility, and fortunate to have a lot of association relationships that are continuing to reinforce the message and what we're trying to accomplish in the industry.
Yeah, thanks, David. We actually did the math recently. On a busy weekend now, this summer, we did almost 2 million rounds of golf that we were tracking, right? So it really accumulates. And about half of those came from Wisconsin. I'm joking. But a lot of them. You're not a lazy bunch over at Wild Rock. You're doing quite a bit of golf. What is and obviously everyone's seen a phenomenal growth. What's your annual count now at, Pat?
Yeah, since COVID hit, we've been doing 24 to 25,000 rounds a year. And that's up from, pre-COVID, we were 19 to 20. So you can kind of see what COVID has done in Wisconsin for golf. And it helps that Wisconsin's become now this golf destination, and we have definitely seen the effects of that at our facility.
Yeah, for sure. And also like your location just is strategically well chosen at a time that nobody could even foresee that, right? So that's
yeah. Nice central location and easy to get to kind of everywhere in the state.
Maybe Erin Hills and Sand Valley chose their location based on you guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we want to talk through a few talking points, and one of them, obviously, because we're in the golf industry, we are serving players and we are creating experiences, right? So one of the things that is always a theme is like, what are those experience factors that matter the most, and what makes or breaks a player experience? Pat, from your long history and working in the game, and also hopefully playing quite a bit of golf and having friends that play golf, what would you say are the sort of the top 3 things that you need to get right if you want to create a fantastic experience?
For us, and kind of what we feel our goals are is kind of rewrite that slide with what you have up there. Is pace of play is probably number 1. That's the one thing we hear about day in and day out, pace of play, whether it's good or bad. We try to have, try to make a memorable experience for our guests, something that they go away remembering the day, remembering the golf course. And then our customer service, kind of feeds back into that experience. But those are kind of our 3 key touch points that, if we feel that if we nail all 3 of those, our guests are going to have a pretty good day at Wild
Rock. There's no doubt, because you've made a wonderful name for yourselves, but also you have an amazing design, but that needs to be well presented, right? So I'm sure your conditioning also gets a lot of attention, and you'll have a good team looking after that.
Yeah, absolutely. Course conditions kind of go without saying. That's an expectation that we've set. And we have the reputation, that guests, come here and they expect to see the golf course in good shape. And, kind of, like I said, falls in line with the other facilities that are in Wisconsin, we take our pride, that we don't take second seat to any golf facility as far as conditioning and our maintenance staff. So
those are recipes for success, no doubt. And the research here backs you in that. Number one is, in terms of player experience factors, is course conditioning. And if you look at any golf course's budget, you will know that the course operators know about that. And for a long time, it's been as a case of how much more money can we find to invest, right, in conditioning as much as possible. But very close to that is, as you're saying, a pace of play and the flow of play as a crucial enjoyment factor. 74% of players are saying that's critical to them. That's number three. And then, interestingly enough, 83% of operators, that's even more recent survey from the NGCOA, are saying that is a top three priority that they want to pay attention to, because they realize the value it brings to golfers. There's one other consideration, and obviously we've seen an amazing influx in additional players coming from the off-course craze that is Topgolf and the likes, right? And that's a lot of younger players, or players are doing both on course and off course. But there's research that shows that a considerably faster round or better pace of play can command a higher price point. And this may not be as relevant for you being a resort and a bit of a destination, but would you say that that's maybe a consideration for a daily fit course down the road, that they can maybe differentiate themselves if they offer that and maybe also charge a little bit more for it?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like when you have casual conversations about golf with friends, guests of the golf course, it seems like pace of play is always that starting point when you have that conversation. So, I mean, if you can set the experience off right with a round of golf that's 4.5, 445, I think that leaves, before you do anything else, that's already that one big touch point that, guests go away remembering and tell their friends that, hey man, we played there and we played 4.5 hours or 4 hours. We flew around. It was great. So yeah, I couldn't agree more that, a fast round of golf is a great marketing tool, right? Without having to do anything, probably facility wise.
Yeah, for sure. But it goes the other way as well, right? If you have a
100%.
reputation or the slow, then people are quite unforgiving.
Yeah.
I've got a trick question for you, Pat. Would you accept a 5-hour round of golf? Here's the trick: if it was at Erin Hills. Because I kid you not, their goal time is 5 hours, right? And if you've played there, you know that it's a monster of a course. It's walking only. That's how long it takes. And they're coming in. They're bringing everyone through there at 4:57, like clockwork. And nobody would ever complain about the pace, right? So the point I'm trying to make is one of the key considerations is flow of play, right? Meaning no wait times out on the course. And sometimes if a round it goes 10 minutes over, but you haven't waited at all, it still feels like it's been a great experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. Yep, I definitely agree with that. A lot of times, like when your days maybe runs longer because of like cart restrictions or, just business level. But if you can keep people moving, they don't feel like they're waiting. That's a big thing too. There's always going to be factors that you can't control, such as weather and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like Erin Hills with the walk there, it is, you feel like you got your exercise after you're done with that round. So yeah, I can see where that 5-hour round would come into play there.
No, for sure. And we have quite a few partners as well in Ireland and Scotland. They're also like very traditional golf courses. They're smartly designed, very short transitions, and you will play that course in 3:50, right? And so the design and the length has a lot to do with it. It's not just there's a magic number everyone has to adhere to. Like every course has got its own time. And what if you found is a good time for you guys at Wild Rock to work towards from a goal time point of view?
Yeah, so Wild Rock's a really big piece of property. There's, a lot of space in between tees and greens that require, a little bit of a cart ride. So we kind of set 445 as our number with that in mind, knowing that, from certain holes, you're going to spend some time driving out to the first tee. But yeah, like on a normal day, we would say, a pace of 445 would be in our wheelhouse as acceptable. Obviously, 4.5 would be great, but yeah, like I said, it's just the golf course is big and it just takes time to get around it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and this is totally appropriate. Like that's why I was saying nobody would ever say anything's wrong at Erin Hills for a 5-hour round, right? It really comes down to the course and how it's designed, and also ultimately the experience you're trying to create. Let me jump ahead. And here's some research that's funny enough has come out of Wisconsin too, which is the center of the universe as far as golf is concerned, apparently. So this is from the University of Wisconsin Stout, and they were asked by the USGA to really dig into the golfer experience. And they did research at multiple facilities across the country and also quizzed a couple of thousand players and managers. And they tried to work out what are those factors that matter the most to players in terms of experience factors. And they found that there's 1,000 touch points in a round of golf. And that sounds a bit crazy, but if you think about it, loading your clubs into the trunk, that's a touch point. Making a decision to go play, booking your round, all of these are touch points. Driving through the gate, being greeted, all of these are touch points, right? And some of them obviously matter more than others. So this lady on here is Christina Skunova from Erin Hills, and she's also a prof at the University of Wisconsin Stout. So the research has to be correct and 100%. David, you listened to Chris Skunova at a Golf Inc. panel recently. What were your takeaways just looking at these sort of key highlights that we have here?
Yeah, I think this just really plays into what Pat said is, just all of these touch points, some of the ante into the game, so to speak, is course conditions to a degree, but, how you're greeted, how you are, if you book a tee time, if you have interaction with the shop, if you have interaction with F&B, any of those touch points, has a tremendous impact, I think, on your overall experience. And that's what really drives it. Interestingly enough, if you think about how the marshal role reflects and how our system and our technology supports that, that corrective pace of play action and having a marshal drive up and having address your group, those all become a little bit defensive. And I think one of the things that we've done, with great clients like Pat is, having a more proactive stance on having that data, having that technology, having the overall oversight to be able to address those conditions before they evolve. And I think that's one of the things that Chris said is that, that overall experience piece and just reinforcing there's no cookie cutter approach. And to Pat's point, 4 hours and 45 minutes is absolute, perfect for his facility. Whereas another facility may be 4, maybe 4:10, maybe before 12. It really depends upon the experience you're creating and the atmosphere and the topography and the distance between tees and greens and all those things that go into effect. So, we're not out trying to tell people that everybody's got to play in a shorter time frame. That flow has tremendous impact on the overall experience.
Yeah, and I know, Pat, you've learned quite a bit about the underlying data at your facility, but just a quick look at this, how polar that pace experience is, right? Corrective pace of play actions, if it's not done well, players hate it and they can't cope, being told they're slow. At the same time, other people's speed frustrates them like nothing else. And then you have at the very top positive ranger etiquette, because it's probably so unique or unheard of. This goes to what you said earlier, that pace just seems to be part of every post-round conversation in a way. You're surprised how polar it comes out with 1,000 touch points?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that. That ranger position can easily go from hero to villain in a matter of seconds, and having the data to just show a guest that, your group is behind and it takes, the the guests thinking that the ranger is out to get them, or being unfairly treated, to kind of a black and white thing that you can show that your guests that, hey, your group is, your group's 15 minutes behind, and everyone is stacking up behind you. Like I said, it takes out that, like being the guest feeling they're being targeted. It's hard to argue that point. So that, that's where, having tag marshal and stuff can maybe help take that, that corrective play and, negative experience, and maybe make it more of a positive, to show that, we're not trying to bully you or whatever. We're just trying to help you get along so that everybody else can enjoy their round, and make it more enjoyable for everybody, and so that everyone has a great day.
Fully agree. And also, just looking at the traditional way of rangering is the most unthankful and probably one of the toughest job in golf, right? Because you can't get it right.
100%. And that's, where we've kind of keyed in is making that more of us using the tag marshal to give the ranger information on where to be, where the problem areas are, where the groups are falling behind, and not so much to be focused on say a 5-hole loop that everything's great, but maybe it's the 3-hole loop ahead of them that if we're not proactive, we've just extended that problem area to another 3-4 holes. So it's really let us key that ranger in and make them more efficient, and like I said, and let the guests see the ranger where the problems are and make him more visible.
I think that's a great segue into actually looking at the technology a little bit. So how do you at Wild Rock use tech to innovate? Because I think you're quite rightly also proud that you got on a system and you got ahead of maybe some of the other clubs, and it was important to you to have Wild Rock stand out even further, and how that enhances the player experience. So tell us a little bit how, so the system that you've chosen, one, but also who have you got dialed into it, before we then look at what your team and yourself actually see in the day-to-day.
Yeah, so what we did once we've got everything loaded up and ready to go is basically we made it available to all of our staff members. So everyone has an iPad with them, whether it's a starter, ranger, bev cart. They have it down in the bar, so that everyone can kind of see what's going on the golf course. Lets everyone buy into what we're trying to do as far as guest experience, whether that's the bar, knowing that they can see that all of a sudden, hey, we're going to have the group of 20 guys or guests walking in here shortly, to the ranger being able to see where they need to be, or the superintendent and his staff using it to look at where the traffic has gone with the maps and what have you. So like I said, it's been, that I can say there's not a single person on our team that is not interacting with Tag Marshal on a daily basis to try to use it to enhance our guest experience.
It probably won't surprise you, but a club like yours that's engaged to that level, there's 1,000 interactions with the system, like 1,000 logins and check-ins a month across your team. That shows you like how your team works with the daily. Maybe just to take a step back, so Pat and the team have decided to get our two-way GPS system, which gets installed in a cart. We'll show that in just a minute. We also have what we call a classic tracker, which just gets hidden away in the cart, and obviously that also delivers data into the system. So they both do that. And then those other clubs that we mentioned earlier, obviously they're walking and caddy geared courses up in Wisconsin. They use our classic mobile system, but they all do the same thing. These are sort of front end functions and units, and they all deliver data into our system, and then it gets presented. You can think of it as a Waze or Google Maps of on-course management, right? Much like you're relying on Waze or Google Maps to get you around and show you where traffic is. So this shows the manager and the team everything that's going out on the golf course. And then we have where Waze and Google Maps obviously have a lot of underlying data around city traffic flows and so on, and they use it to mine data on you as a user and to sell ads and so on. We have all of that information as well, but we can make it available obviously to the business and to the operators so that the team and Pat can go and really understand their performance, but also some of the underlying data points, such as the whole-by-whole runtime and things like that, that make the course tick. But we'll talk to that in just a minute. But you mentioned that it's quite a large property, and you can see that just from this map here. Let me jump one ahead. So your team that's dialed into it, so how do they now know what to do? Like, so this is a snapshot that's obviously we created one, but just talk to us a little bit about the colors and how do they know what to do based on this versus maybe how things used to be.
Yeah, so in this situation, what our golf shop staff would do is we have it up on the computers, and we watch for like the carts that turn purple, and those would be tend to see the ones that might have are going to cause your delay during your day. And then those are the groups that we'll focus in on and make sure that, hey, we're calling the ranger, or we're sending someone out from the staff just to engage with that group. Might start with a message first, just a friendly, just kind of bring it to their attention that your group is falling behind pace, and if we'd appreciate your cooperation to get caught back up. If that doesn't, if that doesn't work, then that's when we're going to go out on the golf course and just have a friendly conversation, engage, and try to get, again, bring it to their attention and just point out that, hey, the group in front of you is already on the green and you're on the green of the hole before. Just like I said, just a friendly, non-confrontational way of just bringing it to their attention. And we find a lot of times that just, they're just kind of into their day and they don't really realize it. If you can just bring it to their attention, they're more than happy to help. And they don't want to be part of the problem. They want to be part of the solution. So, but it's let us use our on-course staff a lot more efficiently to be able to see the entire golf course and be able to highlight the groups that are the problem groups or the ones that we need to kind of focus in on, instead of, like I said, looking at groups that aren't part of the problem. So we've definitely seen an improvement there, and it takes a little bit of time for the staff to get used to having that tool and looking at it. But once we kind of got everyone engaged, now they're like in between checking in groups, they're in there checking to see what's going on and where they need to send the ranger, and or someone needs to run out there and just kind of take things out, and engage with the guests. So it's been fun to see that part of it and how everyone's, like I said, jumped into it and wanting to, be part of the solution.
Pat, I'm curious, Bodo, real quick, just in this scenario, if you think about, I love the fact that you're kind of building this into the culture and you're getting your team from every level kind of engaged. And I would ask you if you agree that in this scenario, groups 18 and 19 are behind, group 17, that's a little bit of the delayer. And if you're proactively addressing that, you're also probably making that experience for those two groups that might otherwise pick the phone up and call your golf shop and say, hey, this group ahead of us is slow. Now you've taken a proactive approach and probably improve the experience for them as well. Yeah,
100%. Like before we had this, you'd always hear that, hey, we never saw the ranger on the golf course at all. This group in front of us was 2 holes behind. We never saw the ranger, where the ranger was out there all day. But now, like you said, you're onto the problem and you have the guests, see that the ranger is taking care of the situation. And we make a point of going kind of backwards then, and then, just touching with those guys and let them know that we're working with the group in front of them, and just to inform everyone of what's going on. But yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's the ability to really hone in on something and be proactive and get it taken care of before it really gets out of control has paid huge dividends for us.
Yeah, you're making a great point. And I think if you half an hour late to a problem, you can never get that time back, right? It's impossible to untangle, and now you have major impact on, yeah, maybe 20 players behind, and they might also let you know about it afterwards, and that actually takes more effort to fix then, right?
Correct. You know, you spend a lot of effort in getting guests to your facility, and like you say, we talked about earlier, pace of play can easily derail those guests from coming back. So, I mean, for that effort you put to making sure that pace of play and whatever issues else come up are addressed, you know, down the road pays huge dividends, you know, when having those guests come back again, you know, to Wild Rock or any facility for that matter.
Sure. Okay, great. Let's jump ahead. And you mentioned that you have virtually your entire outside staff and pro shop dialed into the system, but you're also working with your superintendent around two things. One, you mentioned turf protection and geofencing. So tell us a little bit how that's working for you guys, and also are the players happy to work with them, those alerts and so on?
Yeah, the geofencing has worked great. We use it primarily around tees and greens. And then we've started doing some fescue areas that we want to protect. Or, you know, like the superintendent can, you know, if we've got a known wet area in a fairway, or, you know, just, it's another tool to, you know, remind guests that, you know, we need their cooperation to keep the golf course looking good. In another, basically almost like another set of eyes, you know, as far as, you know, keeping guests on cart paths on a cart path only day, you know, or like I said, keeping a guest from taking their cart into our fescue areas, or, you know, safe in any area that's not safe for a golf cart. So, you know, we found it's helped us immensely, just help communicating with them, like even when we don't have a ranger or staff member in that area, just as a reminder that, you know, hey, we need you to return your cart path, or return to a cart path, or get your cart out of an area. So it's nice and it's easy to do, so that, you know, like our ground staff can easily put up, you know, a geo fence that, you know, if say they had an irrigation leak or something that they just want to keep people out of, without having to put a ton of rope and that kind of stuff out there. So
that's great feedback. David, I know that this is obviously a common conversation that you have with our partners. The other way to do geofencing is obviously to shut down carts. And what have you learned in terms of how players respond to it being done that way?
Yeah, I think one of the things that differentiates us is that, you know, we don't physically shut the golf cart down. So when someone enters a geofenced area and they realize it and the alert goes off on the screen and the buzzer goes off, they still have the ability to navigate themselves out of that area, as opposed to the golf cart shutting down. You know, someone has to reverse it out. They don't really know where the boundaries are in some cases. So they're just backing up, you know, as far as they need to back up before they start getting control of their vehicle again. So one of the things we continue to hear is just that, you know, that inconvenience and that frustration of the golf cart shutting down is something that's not appealing to a lot of people. So at the end of the day, you're trying to keep people out of these areas that Pat referenced, you know, whether it's you know, whether it's a wetland area or whether it's native grass or whatnot. But I think it gives the operator a lot more control in the golf car, and a lot more feeling of, okay, I made a mistake, I can correct it quickly. So that's what we continue to hear.
Pat, the other tool that your superintendent is dialing in here or there is the heat map. So we've zoomed into the 18th here, just as an example. You can actually see the geofence that you've drawn around, presumably for a cart path only day, and you can very clearly see where people spend time. Has that been helpful at all in terms of your decision making or your superintendent's management of the turf?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's just another tool in the toolbox, you know, to help protect areas, like all of a sudden we see like a lot of carts going in an area that necessarily, wouldn't want them, or, again, it kind of goes back to pace of play. It's like you can kind of see like, like a lot of carts are, because of ropes, are making people go around and go to areas and add time. So we've been able to get a really good idea of flow on holes, just to give us a better idea where people are going and the way traffic's moving on the golf course. It's been, like I said, it's been great for where we've had to put ropes and, dialing into areas that maybe that all of a sudden we look on, say, like the right hand side of 14, and we know there's a lot of carts over there. Well, that's kind of a trouble area, and maybe we need to clean that area out to make it easier for a player to find their golf ball, or make it more playable to keep play moving. So
yeah, I think that's that speaks to an important point, is that a lot of times changes that you're making are not massive design renovation changes. They're actually small changes that have a big impact, right? And I think that'll be a good thing to touch back on when we talk about the hole-by-hole runtime and how you've dug into that. But let me just make one comment here. You obviously had your major renovation and it's been a huge success, but there are a lot of clubs out there right now that are considering renovations. And to have this sort of data available for the architect is also super helpful, because they can then look at, okay, what's the natural player movement? What's the sort of flow that we're trying to create? Where also players, where they're cutting across some of the original designs that was not intended, that we can now actually adjust a little bit just to have them move with a sort of natural human movement flow that they want to take. And we've had courses like Valhalla, for instance, or Baltusrol really save a lot of money and have better results in their renovations, because they could dig into this sort of thing, having had data collected over time. So the more information you have, the better. And on that note, this is one of the things that's quite useful to have, is basically a history of every round that was played. So we call this a track map. And you can already see there's a geofence breach recorded here, who that group was. And there's also interactions that the system may have had or your team may have had that are logged. And you can then have sort of a sort of post-round, this group came in at 35 seconds over your goal time. But how and when do you use this? And is it helpful to you guys, to your team?
Like one thing, this is I forgot to touch on this earlier, but the pace of per hole, when trying to figure out where maybe a group has gone behind or whatever, like it's nice to be able to say, like, all of a sudden maybe they played 8 holes fast, but the 9th hole, man, they just had nothing but troubles. So you can kind of see that, hey, like maybe this group necessarily isn't a slow play problem, they just had a bad hole, and you can just kind of keep an eye on them, and then all of a sudden, they're back to playing fast again, on the 10th hole. So I mean, that's a really nice tool. It gives you a really nice snapshot of what's going on with that group during the day. But like I said, going back to like you said, like the information of a round, it's nice again, like to see why a group is being held up. Is it a hole location? Like all of a sudden you look at 3 or 4 groups, we put maybe a bad hole location on 11 where everybody is struggling with that spot. Can kind of maybe develop kind of a reasoning behind the pace of play other than just they're slow. There's other things that will slow people down, and this gives us areas to go look at to see what was it with that area that held this group up, or these several groups up.
Yeah, I think they're digging into the causes, right? And also looking not at just a single group, but how has this impacted potentially the whole day or number of groups. Without the information, you could never do that. Let's jump ahead to our next section, because I am our pacekeeper here. We have 40 minutes in, and so some great points raised. Just an easy one. What's the response been from players and of course your team and we've got a few of those screens that your players might be interacting with, and obviously that's what they see. But we'll also talk to some of the data that sort of assures the underlying experience. Yeah, just tell us a bit about what the players are saying. If anything, is it a good thing for them? And
player-wise, I'm sorry. Player-wise, they love it. The touch screen, the ability to just, a touch on area to know, yardage to that spot and then to the green, gives them a lot of information. And it's been, like I said, people kind of come, I think, to expect technology now during their round of golf, whether it be an app or GPS on their cart. And this just gives them one more tool when they're out playing, and it gives us a more of an enhanced look that we provide our guests with GPS on the golf cart. So it's been a win for us that way. The ability to do, like, there's some examples of our advertisements. It's been a win-win there. We've been able to put up some stuff, like, say, for on course, like our turn houses or reminders about fixing divots or ball marks, or then, on the closing holes, promoting our dining facilities on the resort. So we've kind of been able to get creative on how we use the advertising. As another way, not directly say revenue back to the golf course, but to the resort in general. If we can, get a few groups that head to our steakhouse on property or our Italian restaurant, a reminder about booking golf packages, all those subtle hints, all those things add up. And, it's just a beneficial, like I said, not only to the golf course, but to our entire resort.
Yeah, you're making a great point. So one thing to add here is that this green bar at the bottom of the screen that the players are seeing, that obviously changes color in line with their pace status. So I think the self-management side, and you've probably set up a threshold that after a certain amount of minutes actually pops them a message automatically. That probably takes away a fair bit of interventions that you would normally have. But a question on more of a fun one. Do you guys have spotted cow at your turn house?
Absolutely. And a lot of it.
And also, that's the first time I heard this term, but I think all the clubs should be using it. Do you call your halfway house ladies or the drinks cart ladies beer angels? Because that seems to be a Wisconsin term. Have you heard that before?
We haven't got there yet, but that I would think that's a pretty common thought between the golfers. So I was to say, kind of going back to, like I said, like you brought up the point of, on the bottom of the screen, with the timing again, that's made, like, for our rangers, it's nice for them because it's a black and white thing. They, the guests, when they go to talk with the guests, it tells them right there that they're behind. And it's, like I said, it takes the ranger being the bad guy out of the scenario because, it's in black and white on their screen.
Yeah, Pat, I think we like to say it takes the emotion out of that conversation a little bit. So
yeah, 100%.
And you can have a fact-based conversation that doesn't have to be confrontational, doesn't have to be judgmental. It's just, hey, you're a little bit behind pace and starting to impact the golf course, so we could really use your help. That's a whole different delivery. So one thing real quick, I just wanted to share, Bodo.
Yep.
Pat, you mentioned this earlier, and I'm curious. I think it's brilliant. Are you using this for your F&B staff? So at your turn house, as an example, they're looking at the data. They know the groups that are approaching, so they know to be prepared for those next groups that are starting to roll in one after another.
Yeah, 100%. So our turn house will have that out there, and they'll know, not only, like as the flow of the golf course goes, but kind of when that flow is done. So we're not paying them to be on the golf course when there's no more groups coming through. They can kind of help us manage their payroll by knowing that, hey, that's my last group to come through. That's the last group I'm going to see for the day. I'm going to go ahead and start packing in. So again, not only like a management tool, like for running the golf course, but it's a management tool for us to help manage our payroll and use it more efficiently.
That's awesome.
Great point. On the efficiency note, Pat, so this is what we call the analytics hub, which is sort of the back-end data collection tool. And just quickly by introduction, what it does is it looks at the groups tracked, and if you're doing a signing, it knows, is this a single, twosome, threesome, foursome? It looks at the average round time throughout the period. It looks at weather interventions and whether successful. It looks obviously weather conditions on a single day basis is important. And then every single tee time on a single day basis has a pace status, either in play, but most importantly, end of day. And this also, you can zoom out and you can look at a week, you can look at a month, and then the days get then shown as will be successful, yes, no. And in the bottom left, you have your runtime, hole by hole. And the bottom right, you have your pace distribution, which is going quite a bit deeper than your standard average round time, which doesn't really tell you all that much about the experience that was had by the players, because the average obviously is a balance of fast and slow, and not everything happens on point. But just to your point in terms of your 445 being appropriate, so we looked at some data on when the system was first installed and your team just got used to it the first few days. It was basically just tracking round data, and you came in at 449 last year, and this year on a similarly busy day, your team now delivers 427, right? So that's a 22-minute gain effectively, and this is what this day looks like, right? So yeah, to what extent and how do you use this information just to benchmark yourself, to look at how the team's done, and also tell us a bit about what you've learned about your hole by hole run times?
Yeah, so the two big pieces of data that I use from this part is that hole by hole, to see again if we did have some pace of play issues, what holes were our problems, and then going back and looking at, again, was it hole location? Like now we know that, hey, when we've got 150 rounds, we can't put the hole location in this spot. We just know that's gonna, or like we need to play the hole shorter on these par fives just to help pace the player, or whatever that solution would be. And then the pace distribution, that gives you, I like that because it gives me a quick snapshot of what the day kind of looked like. Yeah, the majority, we did have a couple bad slow groups, but for the majority of the day we were on pace, things were moving well. So those are the two, my two big ones I look at every day. And I'm like, after having the system operational and for a full year, is to really go back and look at that pace chart hole by hole and see like where we need to maybe address some things, or because before this we were kind of making an educated guess on what holes that thought played longer or shorter, and it'll be kind of interesting to see if what our guesses were match up to the data, or we're way off, or what. But I think we'll be able to use that even more this off season to look at, like I said, the holes that play slower, what's on those holes that cause the delay, whether it's going and cleaning out some tree lines, or maybe knocking down some fescue, or opening up some areas some more. So I think that'll be just do nothing but help us, increase pace of play in the long run. And the other thing, like, I've kind of played with the idea of, can you have a little faster pace, tee time starting wise, and then, you start at 9 minutes in the morning, and then my midday when things slow down, maybe you go to 12 minutes to offset some more people out there. Does that make sense? Or do you just need to have a little more of an interval in between tee times to keep things moving? So all those will, just kind of helps back up your decision making, I think, more than anything else.
No, 100%. I think there's three really nice data points to highlight here quickly. The first one is that you have two groups on this day that are falling out of position, right? And they're holding up groups behind. So here's your purple group behind the group that's out of position or holding up. That's your delayers versus delayed groups. But what's great to see this little icon here with the note that shows that your team has had an interaction and logged those interactions. And the first group here, because they're early out, right, they can really wreck your day. Your team actually got on top of them and checked in with them 3 times to make sure that things didn't go didn't get worse. And it shows that they've basically rescued the day, right? Because after that, the following groups were nicely on pace. And there's another group here. And then again, they got them back in play. And that's really nice to see because it speaks to the accuracy that you mentioned earlier. Your team just knows where to go and who to stay on top of rather than just looking for the problems. So that's the first data point. And the second one is, so this pace distribution is actually from last year's day where you played 449, right? And what it shows is that it's just such a mixed bag. And there's quite a few groups that are 30, 40 minutes over, but the average still came out almost on goal time, right? So if you just looked at the average time of 449, you wouldn't have seen that. But now this year, on a similar day, also in July, you're really serving up a fantastic day, right? Because everyone's either 30 minutes fast, 20 minutes fast, or right on pace. And there's only a tiny group here that's 15 minutes off, and these guys here being 10 minutes out, the flow would have been so good. They're coming through in 427. Nobody would worry about it. They all had a great time, right? And this is really just your team dialing into things and getting really good at their jobs. And yeah, well done. So it's great to see, and I think you're going to have a lot of additional insight when you get your end of season report from our guys, and that. We're hoping to help you obviously also analyze some of that data, some of your sort of key days, key periods of the year, and what has been learned from a data point of view. Let's jump at the last section of our questions. We've got just 5-6 more minutes. How does it impact savings and revenue? Because ultimately, we all know that we need to provide the best possible experience, but it needs to make dollars and cents somewhere. So tell us a bit about how that's impacted Wide Rock.
Yeah, so like we talked about, the biggest thing for us has been our ability to use our rangers more efficiently. So we've been able to cut back to one ranger and use his time on the golf course by us looking at the GPS and him on his tablet to know where to go instead of just wandering around, just driving around the golf course, hoping that you see problems. So now we can use them to, tell them exactly where to go, how to help them address those situations there, and like I said, use that payroll more efficiently than we have ever had in the past. And then, like we touched on earlier, the advertising part of it. I know we don't actively go out and try to sell advertising space just because of us wanting to promote our own amenities. Mm-hmm. But at the facility, I could easily see the ability to sell advertising to restaurants or bars or attractions in the area to offset any costs, and again like being able to pull that data from the year and really get a true picture of what happened that year. Find your holes that were your problem holes, that it's not always the golfer's fault that they play slow. There might be something with that hole design or just maintenance of that hole that just leads to slow play. So like I said, we're looking forward to having those numbers at the end of the year to really sit down and kind of really dive into them and see how we can use those numbers to affect pace of play for next year.
Yeah, here's a bit of data that already shows you that your early rounds actually play all the way down to 3 hours 30, right? So this is sort of the average throughout the day, and obviously your later rounds are speeding up again, and there may be some 9 holes you're even playing, not sure, but our team can really show that to you in quite a nice breakdown with quite a bit more detail. And you can even ask them to say, well, give me all my key days, which for you might be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So that you don't mix up your maybe potentially slower days with those key days, and you really can make dedicated decisions around that.
And kind of going back to the use of your rangers and using your staffing efficiently. I mean, this tells you exactly, kind of historically when you need to have your ranger on the golf course. Looking at this day is like, you don't need to have your ranger right out there at 7 o'clock. You need them more towards 10 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock, when maybe you start having your slower groups come to Wild Rock. So, that's another great tool to help manage, not only staffing and scheduling, and again, going back to using payroll efficiently.
Yeah, you're making a great point, and we've got quite a few partners that are saying, well, I can actually get a different person in now that can play more of a service role, and then I find dedicated slots where their job for 2 hours a day, and I know exactly when those 2 hours are, they know exactly where they need to be. That's when they go out, and for the rest of the day they can add higher value to our guests and members, right, and elsewhere on the facility. So these are opportunities that, like you're saying, they really make you more accurate, and you can deploy people better down to the hour almost. David, I'm sure you've got some questions for Pat, and I know we're nearing the end. If there's any questions here from our guests, and please shoot them through, and we'll try and answer them.
Yeah, I think you hit on a great point, Bodo, in regard to just the ranger piece and the efficiency of the operations. And I think it sounds like Pat's done a tremendous job in just utilizing those people and trying to find the areas where, you don't need a dedicated ranger just combing the golf course and riding around. You can have that person become more of a course advisor, service facilitator, that type of thing. So I think those are all key points. And it kind of goes back to what Pat, I love the fact that he's utilizing the data more and really looking at it more introspectively as to course conditions and setup. And, maybe our history with this particular hole has been longer because, we now realize we got a forced carry, or we're setting the tee box too far on a par 5, that type of thing. So when we have busy days, we can now set the golf course up to operate more efficiently, to really stay ahead of this. So, kudos, Pat, to you and your staff doing a great job of just utilizing the data and, and making really good judgment decisions to help your operation.
I think, when we first started with GPS, I think as a team, we kind of first thought of like, oh, this is just for the golfers. This is, to give them distances and that kind of stuff. But now we understand, yes, it is for the golfers, but it's more for us, for a management tool to help manage the golf course and and provide the service that we expect. So it's a lot more powerful than just, a tool for the golfers for, to get themselves around the golf course. It's, like I said, it's just as important for our staff as it is for the golfers.
Yeah, I think one thing I would just add is that we like to say there's, it's continuous improvement. So, as you learn, as you grow, as you change, you adopt, and, it's not a plug and play that works perfectly the first day, in the first season. So as you've grown, you've continued to mature as a group and utilizing the system more effectively.
Yeah, 100%.
David, I think the other keyword is incremental, right? Because a lot of what you're talking to is there's little things, but incrementally they add up to make a big difference, right? And I mean, you've seen this before, but if you get 1% better every week, at the end of a 30-40 week season, you're 40% better. That's tremendous, right? That's exactly what you're showing in your results here. So our challenge to you guys would be to, how can we benchmark ourselves against the tougher standards, maybe, right? Maybe we can run Wild Rock at 3:30, and does that allow us an opportunity to add a bit more capacity at the right times, right? And it's great really to do this analysis, because when you're making everyone happy, that obviously means you get great ratings, good net promoter score, lots of repeat play. People say good things about your facility. But if you can add a bit more capacity safely on top of that, that's when you're really winning, also from a bottom line standpoint. So we're looking forward to helping you with that. Yeah, I think we've reached the end of our round here. It's exactly on the hour. Pat, thank you so much for your insights.
It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure. And David, thanks for jumping on.
Absolutely, Pat. Thank you. Great conversation. Thanks for your high points.
It's been great, and thanks everyone for checking in with us. We're also going to share and send out the recording to those who want to pass it on. And obviously, there are always quite a few people that register, and at the last second they get tied down. So we'll make sure that they get it as well. Pat, thank you so much. All the best for the rest of the season. I hope you get an amazing Indian summer and lots of additional days that you never expected, where Canadian winter doesn't quite catch you yet.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.